Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to an emergency marketing Monday on a special topic to me, NVIDIA. Sorry, I apologize in advance for my appearance and demeanor and general attitude. It's because I'm sick. I'm sick with NVIDIA fever and also COVID, probably. I'm really sick. But NVIDIA fever has swept the nation. Today is NVIDIA earnings release day, and the entire stock market, nay, the entire US economy seems to hinge on the performance of this one stock. How did we get here? What is going on? This used to be a gaming company that made chips for high-end nerds to crank up the graphics in Cyberpunk. How is this the most important company in the world over the past 3 years? I want to talk about this. I want to explain what today's earnings mean, and I want to explain the risks and challenges going forward as we rely on fewer and fewer tech companies to power all of our global economic growth. Again, fourth quarter earnings changed from a year earlier. We are in the first quarter of 2024, but in the last quarter of 23, we saw 6 companies, basically the entire Magnificent 7 companies other than Tesla, produce all of the growth. The other 494 were down. So we say the market and everybody's retirement, which is here, is up slightly. Everyone's retirement plans are up a little bit, and it's all because of 6 companies. Of those 6 companies, now only 2 are doing really well. The dynamic duo in 2024 is basically NVIDIA and Microsoft. 33%, a third of every, half of all Americans have their retirement plans in this. A third of all of the growth came from one company, NVIDIA, and then 23% came from Microsoft. Basically, over half of all of the growth in the top 500 companies came from these 2 alone. We are in almost never before seen levels of lack of breadth in the market. We are having very, very, very few companies dictate all of the move. The last times this happened are around the dot-com bubble in 1929. Again, I'm not saying we're in the same kind of thing, but I am saying that level of concentration is scary. And Goldman Sachs is calling NVIDIA, before today's announcement, the most important stock on earth. As NVIDIA announced earnings today, there was widespread fear that if they missed on earnings, if they announced bad results, they hadn't made as much money as people thought, it would have tanked the entire market, dragged everything down with them. So a lot was riding on today's announcement. It was called the AI Trade's moment of truth.
Even you suggest it's, quote, the whole ball game for the most crowded trade on earth. And that
the most crowded trade on earth. Again, in the past few months, everybody and their mother have swarmed into NVIDIA. They've put their savings into NVIDIA. Anyone you talk to has heard of this stock, and they're putting money into it. It's become the most traded stock on Wall Street, surpassing Tesla. Sven Henrik, I like this guy. We've now reached the part of the market Brett cycle where the entire market is dependent on one stock. This is from this morning, as everyone eagerly awaited the announcement. Again, just to clarify, 4 times a year, companies have a quarterly report where they announce how much money they made, what their costs were, and how much they plan to make in the future. And that's when you see big movements in the stock price. Today's quarterly report from NVIDIA had a lot riding on it. NVIDIA is just Taylor Swift for dudes. Everybody's buying the stock. Everyone's talking about it. It's become a meme. It's become just a bonding mechanism for people, okay? At some point, people were making bets. Again, today, I don't want to get too into the intricacies of options. Let's just say you can buy a stock and own a piece of a company and, make money as that company gets more valuable, or you can make bets using options. Basically gambles on whether it's going to go up or down, how much, and by when. These are much harder to make money on because you have to be right on not only the direction, but the timing. We are seeing people making bets that NVIDIA will hit $1,300 by February 23rd. That means NVIDIA will double in the next 2 days and become the most valuable company in history. It will pass even Microsoft's peak in the 3 trillions. There are some people, like lots of people, making this bet. Which is insane, because even if they announce really good earnings, it's not likely to double in days. The level of degeneracy in the market right now is crazy around NVIDIA. People are making absolutely lunatic bets. Nancy Pelosi has made a massive bet on NVIDIA and is praying that this earnings call goes well, as she has something like $1.4 million to gain. Actually, I think more than that. She put in $5 million, is already up like 1.4 million. So there's a lot riding on today's announcement, and I tuned in as did the world. What happened when Jensen Huang took onto the call and announced what NVIDIA was doing? Guess what? They fucking did it. Was it good or bad? It was good. Somehow, against all odds and all insane expectations, yet again, this leather jacket king pulled another rabbit out of the metaphorical earnings hat and saved the market for a little while longer. NVIDIA announced record-setting growth. Revenue more than tripled. Profits rose 9-fold. And then, and this is the most important part, they projected that they would triple their revenue again. Because it can't just grow. It has to project continued growth into the future to hopefully eventually catch up to its insane price, which has far outstripped how much money it makes. Record 265% revenue growth is moving the entire stock market. Everybody's retirement, which is in the S&P 500, is relying on these few tech companies to have insane growth. If they slow down even slightly, it's going to cause such a catastrophic knock-on effect. But NVIDIA is holding true. They are holding strong, and they are carrying the weight of the world on their back. So far, at least for another quarter, we're good. And I want to explain a little bit about how NVIDIA got to this point and why they're so successful, and why what you used to think of them may not no longer apply. Obviously, it has a lot to do with AI, as you're seeing here. And I think I've mentioned this in previous Marketing Mondays, but to just distill it, there is an AI gold rush, okay? All tech companies worldwide, in fact, all companies in general, see insane opportunities to either save costs by firing people, or do things more efficiently, or sign customers up for more things just to make more money from AI, okay? And if you want to get into AI, let's say you're this guy panning for gold and your name is Mark Zuckerberg, and you want to get on this gold, you think AI is going to make your business more competitive, you're going to make more money, well, then you need this pan. You need picks. You need shovels. The only seller in town of picks and shovels of the AI gold rush is NVIDIA. What you need to train large language models like ChatGPT or to do machine learning is NVIDIA GPU data centers like these, the H100. These things can cost around $50,000. And you know how much they cost to make? Around $3,000. NVIDIA takes some silicon sand out of the ground, designs it, gets people in Taiwan to make it. The whole thing costs between $3,000, $3,500 to make. They sell it for close to $50K. And it's one of the greatest businesses in the world because nobody else can design the chips like NVIDIA currently. And all of these other tech companies, Microsoft, Google, Meta, companies in China, they all see the money from the AI gold rush, but they all have to stop by NVIDIA and buy endless amounts of these H100s and other data center solutions, which is why NVIDIA has gone from a nominally gaming company to this. This is their income statement from what they just announced today. Notice how gaming is a relatively small part of this massive business. $18.4 billion of revenue came from AI data center. Gaming is 3. Now let me flash you back real quick. This is just a year and a half ago. They were almost equal. If you flash back a year before that, like when I worked there, they were dead equal, if not data center was behind. In the past very short period of time, the sales of this type of thing have catapulted NVIDIA's profitability. And you'll notice gaming growth is 0%. This is no longer, in any real stretch of the imagination, a gaming company at all. They have completely pivoted to being an AI solutions company for other tech companies. And that has made them one of the most valuable companies on earth. So here's Jensen on stage talking about AI supercomputers for the era of generative AI. These big data centers that he's selling that are gonna make him wealthy, and other people take the risk. And I want to explain a little bit of why that is, basically how they suddenly came to dominate this market. Very simply, for the long time, stuff like this was done with CPUs, the type of stuff Intel makes. Moore's Law, which is that efficiency will double every year, fell off. And it turns out that GPUs are remarkably good for things like machine learning, deep learning, training language development. That's the basic idea. And they created a platform called CUDA, which is like a software layer that goes on top of the hardware, which means they kind of own the full stack. So if you want to train stuff on AI, you use CUDA software, which means you learn NVIDIA solutions, which means if someone else makes a different one on a different chip, it's hard for you to learn. It's a pain in the ass. It's kind of like the way, you know, if you learn graphic design on Adobe software in school, then when you go to your workplace, they have to buy Adobe because that's what you know how to use. So people study AI using CUDA on NVIDIA GPUs, and then when you go to work in AI, you need to buy NVIDIA GPUs and use CUDA. That's the general idea. So this was incredibly predictive of the future by NVIDIA and Jensen Huang. They saw ahead of the game. They planned this 10 years in advance. They worked to build it up. And then when the moment finally happened, they're so far ahead of the game. And that is how they've started to reap insane rewards. And it's very hard for other companies to catch up. And based on today's earnings, things look good. Jensen says they're in the first year of a 10-year cycle of spreading AI tech into every single industry. They're going to partner with everybody. Everybody wants to buy their stuff. So growth will not stop, according to him. He even says it's surging among nations. This has been his big push. Let me explain this. These companies fucking hate that they have to buy shovels from NVIDIA. They really don't like it because they're getting drastically upcharged. They are all thinking and plotting of ways to no longer have to spend this much money on NVIDIA chips. So NVIDIA, seeing that coming down the pike, are trying to find new demand in the form of going around to different countries and saying, you need to have your own national AI system, and we're going to sell you the stuff to do it. That's the general idea. And nations have, you know, unlimited budgets. So it's a big growth area. And all of this can go well, and NVIDIA will keep growing and hit a fucking $8 trillion valuation, and everyone will get their bags full and go to the moon and get rich, okay? This is a realistic possibility. If you read all this stuff, everyone's going to the moon, there's no problem. I just think you can hear that story from anyone. I personally get nervous because throughout history, people have been told that story many times. And a lot of times it has ended in heartbreak and pain and tragedy. So I want to also, to be fair, give you an idea of the risks. I know that Dave Portnoy will tell you that stocks only go up and only losers take profits. Similar things were said about Cisco during the dot-com bubble of 2001. Cisco is the blue line here. NVIDIA is the pink line here. Cisco at one point was the most valuable company in the world because they said they were going to build, you know, the bandwidth and the switches of the internet age. They were the picks and shovels person of the internet age. And they became the most valuable company in the world, and everybody bought in. And it turns out that other people came in, could build that stuff for cheaper. They didn't have as big of a moat as they thought they had. And the company lost a lot of that value. But the general idea is that there was a bit of a mania, a bit of a bubble around this new technology. It's possible that is here. As Jeff Bezos likes to say, your margin is my opportunity. Now, when he says it, because he's a bald asshole, he means if you have a sporting goods store that sells this $70 net for students to play baseball or softball, I'm going to steal it, make it in a Chinese factory, and sell it for $5 cheaper with Amazon Basics. But it applies to all industries, okay? The fact that NVIDIA has such a massive margin, the difference between what they charge and what it costs them to make, means someone can come in, find a way to make the same thing and charge a little bit less and get a lot of the customers. What's stopping that right now is that these are really hard to make. NVIDIA is world class at designing these chips. There's only 3 major companies, especially if you're US based, that can design this kind of stuff. And there's only one company that can really make it, which is TSMC in Taiwan. And this company is booked out for years. Every single, minute of their foundry time is booked out by NVIDIA and Apple and Samsung and Sony for years and years and years. It's very hard to get any foundry time. So if you want to compete with NVIDIA, you have to put up a whole lot of money to outbid and grab this time. And you better have a chip you know is going to sell. That being said, people are doing that. Microsoft and Intel today, right after NVIDIA's earnings, announced they are striking a custom chip deal that could be worth billions. Microsoft is openly saying, we are going to find a way around this. We're going to do whatever it takes to try and get cheaper chips. We cannot be paying NVIDIA these prices forever. This is happening. I mean, the markets are all moving around trying to find a way around this. The second risk could happen is that perhaps demand might slow. Nobody wants to talk about this, but I'll give you an example from my experience. When I started at NVIDIA around here, 2016, 2017, we had an immediate spike and then a sudden crash of the stock. What happened here? Crypto. People started buying GPUs like crazy to mine crypto. and everyone thought the demand would be infinite. And then there was a bit of a crypto crash. People stopped buying GPUs. They flooded the market with used GPUs. So even gamers didn't want to buy new GPUs anymore. They just bought the used ones. And NVIDIA demand went off the cliff. It was a big problem internally at the company, and it caused the stock to go way down. I remember there was a lot of low morale around the office. People were like bummed. Oh, I should have sold or whatever. Thank God they didn't, right? You understand that like this, it's possible. If there's a possibility that, for example, GPT stuff like ChatGPT, etc., doesn't make enough money, if all this that they're promising is going to make a lot of money doesn't do it, they're already spending so much money to train and make these models. If they don't eventually print money, the demand is going to eventually dry up fast. We're in a real situation where if the demand slows down, all of a sudden this graph for NVIDIA looks way different. And then finally, there's Dark Brandon. Dark Brandon has been talking a real big game about cutting NVIDIA off from selling GPUs to China because there's a real worry about the AI race getting out of control between USA and China. NVIDIA is the leader in making AI chips. China is a major buyer of them. In fact, China buys 25%, basically a fourth of all of NVIDIA's chips worldwide are sold only in China. And Biden has been cutting off NVIDIA from selling the latest chips to China. China still wants these fucking chips. So what they're doing is finding ways to acquire them despite the ban and then force disassembling them to make their own AI startups. They are trying to backchannel it. And if they do catch up, if China does reverse engineer this stuff and starts producing them cheaply, the market could get flooded with cheaper discount NVIDIA level GPU or close to NVIDIA GPUs. These are all things that you could worry about. Either the revenue slowing because they can't sell to China or China making copycats, etc. All of this is not talked about enough because we're only focusing on the upside. Everything is good, straight to the moon. Let's not worry about it. $1 million price target, whatever. And I just want to mention a couple of the risks. Again, there's a Warren Buffett quote, price is what you pay, value is what you get. NVIDIA, I think, I've worked there. I worked there 5 years. I own shares. I'm actually... It's a big part of my portfolio. I still have plenty of NVIDIA shares. I respect the company. I respect Jensen Huang. I think he's one of the best CEOs in the business. I think NVIDIA is a cutting edge company and you can feel good about investing in them generally. The problem is when the price gets to such stratospheric levels, you might be paying more than what a good company is worth. It's possible for a company to be good and overvalued. For example, all 4 of these companies are part of the S&P 500's energy sector. They are the largest oil companies on earth. Take them and add them with every single other oil and gas and energy company in the entire S&P 500. And you have a smaller market cap than NVIDIA. NVIDIA currently is valued more than every single oil, gas, energy company in the stock market combined. That's risky because their income combined is 147 billion and NVIDIA's is 19. The level of growth NVIDIA has to get to catch up to what it's worth right now is a little crazy. And all I want to do when I talk about this is give you some semblance of warning because I feel like nobody else will. You could say, whatever, I'm going to the moon, have fun staying poor, whatever. I'm a holder. But I've taken some profit off the table. I just want you to be careful. So now that I've said that, let's all go to the moon, baby. Let's all go to the fucking moon. All right, everyone all in, easy money, no worries. I just wanted to give you that update and hope that helps you understand NVIDIA's earnings today and what's going on in the market. Thanks for watching Marketing Monday. We'll have more next week.